Today on Wildlife Nation, we're stepping back in time to learn the traditional fishing methods of the first peoples of Florida.
Living off the landscape, it makes you pay attention to what's going on in the environment. It makes you learn it because your life depends on it.
Then, conservationists are racing to save the only coral reef ecosystem in the continental United States.
We are potentially the last generation to see wild corals.
I'm Jeff Corwin. Wildlife Nation is dedicated to conserving the natural wonders of North America. And now we're teaming up with the Microfragmentation Tribe of Indians of Florida to safeguard the vibrant wilderness of the Sunshine State. We'll explore this region's diverse landscapes and extraordinary creatures as we work alongside the passionate conservationists dedicated to protecting them. This is Wildlife Nation, Expedition Florida. Most people think of the Everglades as one giant swamp, but it's actually a mosaic of micro-ecosystems, including these stunning cypress hammocks, which have played a very important role in the history of the Microfragmentation Tribe of Indians of Florida.
Cypress trees, Joseph, they're very, very important to the Miccosukee people, aren't they?
Yes, very important, because we use it for a lot of things. Building chikis, firewood. See how it looks? It's
right.
Wet. That's where the cypress tree holds up all the water too. It's the hammock. So if you come into a hammock like this, it's cool. But if you're out there in the open, it's hot. Like you can see the difference. It's like maybe 5 degrees cooler.
It's funny, you think of the Everglades, you think of a place that's sopping wet all the time, but there is a dry season.
Yes.
And there's a wet season.
Yes.
And right now we're actually in that dry season.
Yes,
in fact,
yes.
there's places that you can't even get to by airboat now. And for Miccosukee people, tree islands are very important.
We would clear a little area and live on that hammock year round. That ground is raised up. So whether it's the rainy season or dry season, the hammock's always a safe place.
In Florida, cypress trees are protected due to their ecological significance, but the Miccosukee maintain access to them for cultural purposes. And we've come to harvest one for a traditional fishing method called gigging. Explain gigging.
So when you gig, when you see the fish, you just throw it like a spear, and that rope is tied to your wrist, so after you hit it, you could just bring it up.
How important is gigging, both culturally and just as a way of life?
So that's how we used to eat back in the day, a long time ago, before grocery stores, before the roads. We still try to keep things going that we've had in the past. Because if we lose our past, then we lose our future.
First, we need to find the right tree.
I think we got the perfect candidate.
This one right here?
Yeah, this one's a nice tree. It's nice and straight, nice width.
Then, we harvest it.
Lalhek, staniak.
Back at the Miccosukee community, we shape the cypress wood into gigs by hand.
What's your technique here? What are you trying to do, Hector?
What I'm trying to do is even out the weight on the pole so it's easier to throw in the water.
And why is this important?
It's important because that's how we lived for hundreds and thousands of years. Do you want to try?
Sure, I'll give it a try. Like this?
Exactly. And hey, Jeff, and my son over there, he's the next generation.
And why is that important, Joseph?
It's important because I want them to have the same life that we live traditionally, like our old ways, and not forget our ancestors.
Raylan, is that important to you? Someday when you're a father and you have kids, would you want them to experience this? Would you try to teach them this?
Yeah, of course. They need to know all this stuff and know where we came from.
We finish carving up the gigs, bringing one end to a point and fitting it with a fishing prong. The other side is where we attach the retrieving line. Then it's time to gig. While the Miccosukee work to keep their traditions alive, changes to the environment simply can't be ignored. Water levels are lower than normal, even for the dry season,
due to the complex web of modern water management that shapes this ecosystem, a water management program that is often flawed.
See how the water looks? It was never like that. It was always clear. We used to swim in here. We used to drink in here because we would go out there working, cutting logs and stuff, and we would just drink the water while we're out there because it's so clean. But now, can't even do that anymore.
We have success. Got it, you got him.
As a child, I grew up being taught how to gig fish. It's about providing food for your family, even as a child, and you only took what you need. If you got 2 or 3 fish and that was enough to feed your family, that was it. Also, too, living off the landscape makes you pay attention to what's going on in the environment. It makes you have to learn it because your life depends on it.
And witnessing the next generation carry on this tradition instills a sense of hope. Coming up, we work alongside the incredible scientists who may be the last hope for the only coral reef ecosystem in the continental U.S. Florida is home to the only coral reef in the continental United States. The same challenges troubling the Everglades are affecting this critically important ecosystem. Factors like pollution, along with climate change, have destroyed more than 90% of this vital coral reef. Fortunately, scientists at Moat Marine Laboratory are working urgently to turn the tide.
I'm with Celia, she's a marine biologist. I'm with my friend Heidi Cypress, a member of the tribe. Now, Heidi, your passion is politics. What made you want to connect with this story?
I really want to be able to understand the way I could effectively advocate for my tribe and our environment out there. We do believe that all waterways are connected.
Celia, the coral reefs are in trouble today. Why?
The biggest thing is just human influence. Like you said, everything is connected, and with human populations living so close to these coral reefs, sewage runoff, fertilizer runoff, we also have increased levels of carbon entering our ocean, and anything that happens can affect our coral reefs.
70% of every saltwater fish species in some way has a connection to a coral reef.
The whole purpose of our lab is to produce new coral babies to be used for coral restoration.
In Celia's lab, ultraviolet light and high-powered microscopes give us a unique, one-of-a-kind look at one of these coral babies that have been grown here. To observe, we slip on safety glasses to protect our eyes from the high-powered light.
Right here is the mouth of the coral, and then you have their fluorescent tissue as well as the red algae that lives in their tissue. And when I zoom in a little bit closer, you can actually see the detail in the individual cells a lot more. So that's his mouth. You can see these tentacles right here are able to sting and paralyze microscopic prey.
So how old would this particular coral be?
Yeah, so this coral is about 7 months old, and eventually it will start to grow new polyps out of the side. And you can see that process is actually happening on the side here where these little green specks are.
It's budding.
It is. It's growing out radially, and you can see that's a brand new mouth right there. That is just forming, and eventually it will develop tentacles and all the other features that you saw on that primary or the first polyp that developed.
To cultivate these corals, Celia and her team recreate precise conditions of a natural spawning event. Since corals typically spawn at night, they use red light since corals can't detect it.
We're about to observe corals reproduce. So they are broadcast spawners, and what we do on site is we allow them to go through that process in a controlled environment in our laboratory. We're going to collect them and put them in these tubes, and then we know who each of the parents are, and then we're going to cross them together and make coral babies later. So what we're about to see is those corals are about to set, so they're going to release their gamete bundles soon, and when they float up to the top, we're going to collect them into our tubes. So yeah, just be really gentle and grab it, and then gently put it into your tube.
So So Celia, can you please explain why we are doing this in a lab rather than doing it outside where their natural home is?
Yeah, so we're actually seeing a near complete failure of natural reproduction in the wild. So that's why we as scientists have to step in and make sure that this process is still occurring in a controlled environment.
Heidi, it's so bad that we are actually potentially the last generation to see wild corals off of Florida. This is kind of like an aquatic ark.
It is very scary. However, we have had so much success and so much evidence that is showing that our corals are more resilient to current ocean conditions and that we are able to tackle this using science-based restoration.
Coming up, these lab-cultivated corals face the ultimate test. Florida's incredible coral reefs are beautiful, complex ecosystems, but unfortunately, they're in serious trouble. Today, I'm working at one of Moat Marine Laboratory's field stations in the Florida Keys. Alongside Heidi, a Microfragmentation tribal member, we're here to take part in this urgent effort to save Florida's imperiled coral reefs.
Unfortunately, our coral reefs have experienced over a 97% decline in coral coverage, and our job is to create the next generation of resilient corals.
Since 2008, Moat Marine Laboratory has outplanted just shy of 250,000 fragments of coral onto Florida's coral reef.
While Celia focuses on breeding new coral, Jason's using a different method to rapidly grow existing coral.
So we're going to use a process called microfragmentation. So traditionally, coral restoration has relied on relatively large fragments, but they grow slow, and now we're talking about geologic time before we get to reproductive.
Beyond the human lifespan.
Absolutely. And so now we take and separate those colonies into very, very small pieces, microfragments, and the growth rate increases by 40 to 50 times.
So Jason is just speeding up the natural process by which corals break off and grow clones of themselves. Heidi cuts our precious coral into fragments. We glue these fragments to plugs.
Seawater actually helps set the glue, so it sets a lot faster underwater.
You always think of corals as being this sensitive creature, but they're actually pretty tough.
Absolutely. Part of the research is making sure that we're using individuals that are resilient and resistant to the stresses that are out there today, and maintaining high biodiversity in those populations to make sure that they can meet the challenges of tomorrow, 25 years down the road, and 100 years down the road.
The other part is what we're about to do now, and we're gonna head out there with the Moat Marine Laboratory team and actually start building these coral reefs. I'm off the Florida Keys with scientists from the Moat Marine Laboratory. They cultivate corals adapted to survive rapidly changing ocean conditions. But now, my friends, it's time to put these corals to the ultimate test of survival.
In North America, it's only Florida where we can find coral reefs. 90% of them are gone. And programs like this is what will save it. And that begins right now. We ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right, let's get on in.
All right.
First up, Staghorn. We drive the masonry nails into the reef in clusters of 5. Each nail anchors a genetically identical fragment, clones of the same coral arrangements just inches apart. Using zip ties, we fasten each coral to one of the nails. Over time, the branches will grow, touching and fusing together, forming one large, incredibly reproductively active colony. This incredibly productive technique is much faster than letting a single coral grow on its own. Nearby, we're planting brain coral and star coral grown in the lab and attached to small ceramic plugs. We mix the very special underwater epoxy, then glue the corals to the reef in tight clusters, just like the Staghorn. 10 genetically identical fragments per group. Remarkably, these corals can grow up to 50 times faster than they would normally on their own in the wild. Colonies that once took many decades, even up to a century, can now form in just 3 to 5 years. Every coral has a genetic tag, a code that tells the scientists exactly what it is and where it came from. That helps the Moat Marine conservation team track survival and growth over time, especially when they use underwater mapping tools and photography.
Good job, guys. That's 250 endangered corals that are back where they belong.
It's a good feeling to be down there with the Moat Marine team helping to restore this coral reef. It's not just about aesthetics. It's not just because we care about nature. We're investing in the future of corals because when we do that, we're investing in our own survival.
Coming up, we're heading back to the land of the Miccosukee to prepare an epic traditional feast.
So this is where all the action is happening.
I'm back with my friends, the Microfragmentation Tribe of Indians of Florida, and we're about to prepare the ultimate local feast.
So my friends, we have had a successful day. We harvested the gar, the Florida gar. This is a tough ornery fish. It's been living in Florida since there's been a Florida, one of the most ancient types of fishes on our planet. Betty, for the Miccosukee, this is a very important resource.
It is because, when I was growing up, gar was very plentiful. And we could just go out and harvest the gar. But over time, because of mercury getting into the fish, we had to limit our diet. So it's a very important resource for the tribe to invest in.
Betty breaks down the fish into fillets, and then it's time to cook.
So this is where all the action is happening. We have venison bubbling away, and then we have this amazing fish.
We add the garfish to the boiling oil, crackling, golden, and simple. We also smoke and grill the fish, each a traditional method that has been passed down through the generations.
Dolores, this looks delicious over there. What are you making?
I am making pumpkin bread, which is a fried dough, and it is sweetened, and pumpkin is used. We cut them up and we steam them, add it to our flour, and we mix it by hand and add some sugar to give it that sweetness. And we fry them up, and it's like a donut, and it's our dessert.
Our pumpkin bread is bubbling away there. Our fish is looking awesome. We're probably getting close for dinner.
Getting close.
This is, Betty, a sign of a job well done.
It is, and it's family getting together and enjoying this meal that they all help prepare.
What are the concerns for the next generation? What are the things that you guys are worrying about?
We're worrying about our water quality. Mm-hmm. We're worrying about our tribal lands to be able to hold our ceremonies, mm-hmm. to be able to have the food. We need to have a place to exist, and we're fighting very hard for our existence. That's what's at stake for the future generations.
Traditionally, Miccosukees have kept to themselves, mm-hmm. have been kind of off the radar screen behind the curtains. Yeah. Why are you guys changing? Why is it important to be out there and have a vehicle to share your story?
Well, we're not changing, we're adapting. We're just adapting.
We've been quiet for so long that people have taken our reservedness as acquiescence to what's happening in the environment. And we're at a point now that we have to start expressing our concerns. The world is coming to us. It's getting closer, so we don't have any other choice but to speak up.
It's a necessity.
Yes.
All this water is gonna be pushed down and out into both sides of Florida. So it's gonna affect everybody, not just this little community.
Florida is the ultimate wild jewel in North America, but it's also the poster child for many of the problems we face. The waters that we're talking about that find their way, that are killing the only coral reef in North America. So those problems feel overwhelming, but when we come together as a team, it gives us the motivation to fight that fight, to ensure that wild Florida is there for the next generation.